Hello everyone, and welcome to this 5th episode of my Super Woden GP2 lab testing series, where I drive every car in Super Woden GP2 so you don't have to. Today we will focus on the E-Class, containing every vehicle between 401 and 500 horsepower. If you want more details, you can check out the spreadsheet in the comments for more info about the cars. The E-Class being much smaller than the previous classes, we start directly at the 34th place with the Cinder Schöne race car. You could say it's not surprising, but actually when you see what's in 33rd place, you're actually blown away by how bad the Schöne race car is. Yeah, this car is very bad, and the fact that it's only 405 horsepower makes it even worse. Cause yeah, in 33rd place there is the Soup Auburn, which is actually faster than the Schöne race car, surprisingly. With a 59062, it's over a tenth faster than the Schöne race car, and it mainly gains it from its 51 extra horsepower. It's still a very heavy car like in the previous video. It's both slow and very difficult to drive, so I don't recommend it. Next, we jump by 4 seconds with the Soup SX, which gets a 54.8. This car is not very good at all, it's in 32nd place. I still don't recommend it, you're not gonna be able to do anything with this car, especially in this class. Next, we have a car that is only 401 horsepower, the Milan vs Lotto. It gets a 53.68, and if it had like one less horsepower, it could be at the top or very close to the top of the F class for rally, and it would be very competitive with the other cars, but unfortunately it's just above. Next, in 30th place we have the Alia April, which gets a 53.2. This car lacks a bit of straight line speed, but it's still better than the SX, but it's still bad. You're not gonna be able to use it for much. Next, we have the Milan Baxter Group B, which gets a 52.5. This car has 422 horsepower. It's still a decent rally car and balanced, but I would personally keep it in F class because it's more useful there. You have better alternatives in the E class. Next, in 28th place, we have another car that is better to keep in F class. The Nanwolf Dalton race car, which gets a 51.8. Again, this car is not very fast for the E-Class, and you should keep it in the class below. Next, in 27th place, the Milan Kuro WSC with a 51.749. This car suffers from the same problem again, but this car at least you can maybe attempt the hill climb with it, the US hill climb. It's definitely quick enough, but it's gonna be difficult. Next, in 26th place, we have the Enerning 4440 Group A, which gets a 51.4, and this is just as average as it was in the previous video. This is a very average race car, not very good, not very bad, and in this class it's not useful at all. I'd keep it in F class just like the others. Next, in 25th place, we have the Cinder 910 DTC, which gets a 51 flat, and this car is actually a pretty decent DTC car once upgraded. It lacks a bit of grip, it's a bit heavy, but with the upgrades, it's actually competitive with the Colibri, so you can use it if you want. Next, we have the Cinder Super High race car in 24th place, which gets a 51 flat, but for real this time. Perfectly flat 51 second time. This car, again, you should keep it in F class. It's more useful there. In E class it's not very useful, it's at the bottom. So yeah, keep the race cars like this in F class. After that, in 23rd place, we have the Cinder Opalium HC, which gets a 50 seconds and 642 milliseconds. This car is a way better alternative than the other rally cars that we saw previously for the hill climb, but it's still one of the slowest cars out of the hill climb built cars, so I wouldn't recommend it specifically, but it's pretty cheap. After that, in 22nd place, we have the Cinder Audi Spec 2, which gets a 50 seconds and 234 milliseconds. This car is just slightly better than the Opalium HC, and it's very nice to drive, and surprisingly quick, to be honest. I didn't expect it to be quicker than the Opalium. After that, in 21st place, we have the Soup Mamba, which has a 50 seconds and 193 milliseconds. This car is pretty good in straight line, but it lacks of grip, unfortunately. Next, in 20th place, that's actually pretty close between 22nd and 19th. In 20th place, we have the Soup Auburn Race car with a 5133, so barely 600th ahead of the Mamba. This car suffers from the same issues as the Auburn. It's very heavy, and you really need the tires and the suspension upgrades for this car, because otherwise it's undrivable. Next, in 19th place, the Unerling Ingwe BTC, which gets a 50 seconds and 46 milliseconds. So as I said in the previous video, in the BTC class, it's actually one of the best picks, but inside of the F class, it was not the greatest BTC. However, it's still far away behind the Bourget. Next, in 18th place, our first Group 5 car with the Super Annihilator. It gets a 49.796, and yeah, it has an engine upgrade, but it makes it out of the E-Class, so we're not gonna talk about it now. And without the engine upgrade, it's pretty slow. Next, in 17th place, we have the Nanwolf Rofton Group 5, which gets a 49.624. This car is one of the worst, it's actually the worst Group 5 cars, because as opposed to the Soup Annihilator, it doesn't have any engine upgrade, so that makes it the worst Group 5 car. Next, in 16th place, another Annihilator with the RS this time. It gets a 49.5 seconds, and it is the same thing as in the previous class, except that I think it's less useful here, because in the previous class you could use it and dominate in the muscle car weekend, and in this class there is not much to do with it, at least not anywhere where it's actually good. Next, in 15th place, we have the Milan Piero Hell Climber, which gets a 49.1. This car is very expensive, very expensive. It's the most expensive hill climber, and it's a very good vehicle for the hill climb. It really needs to have all the upgrades though, because without it, it's actually one of the slowest. Next, we have the Alia Pardus Group 5, which gets a 49.947. This is the most recent Group 5 car. It was added as well as the Piero Hellclimber. Both cars have an extra engine upgrade after that, so not too interesting to talk about it now, but be aware that those cars are already pretty good without that extra engine upgrade. Next, in 13th place, the Cinder Stiglitz Group 5, which gets a 48.579. This car also have an extra engine upgrade, so I would recommend to put that one, because without the engine upgrade, it's just meh. It handles very well though for a Group 5 car, I have to admit. As opposed to the 12th place, the Raven Shukufuku Group 5, which gets a 48.5 as well, barely ahead of the Stiglitz, and this car is a lot more stiff and a lot harder to drive. Though it's slightly faster, it's very stiff. Next, we have our first JTC car, the Raven Oranos 8 GTC, in 11th place with a 48.492. So don't get it wrong, this car actually has an engine upgrade, it just makes it out of the E-Class, so it's actually not the worst GTC car. Next, in 10th place, we have the Fulgor DTC, which gets a 48.4, and this car, unsurprisingly, is the one that dominates the DTC class, because it's the only one where you can add so many engine upgrades, and there is even an extra one that we're gonna see in the D-Class video. So this car is actually even faster than that. It still drives like shit though. Next, in 9th place, the Alia Coraggioso JTC, which gets a 47.8, and this car has the same issue as the Ranos 8, it just has an engine upgrade that you can't use in E-Class, because this is the E-Class video, and with the engine upgrade we're gonna see in the next video how good it is, but here you have only the stock performance that it gets, and it's still not too bad. The car itself is very stiff though, unfortunately, so it's a bit hard to drive, but at least it's pretty grippy. Next, in 8th place, the Raven Snake 3 JTC. This one doesn't have an engine upgrade, so this is actually the fastest it can get. This is actually the slowest JTC car with a 47.8. It is not great. There are much better alternatives. Next, we have a pretty good surprise in 7th place, the Milan Sinner Group 5, which is the Group 5 car with the lowest amount of horsepower, and it is surprising to see it being this good with a 47.7. It is in the E-Class the best Group 5 car, but again, and the other Group 5 cars, most of them at least, have engine upgrades, so we will see in the next video how many of these Group 5 cars can beat the Sinner. The Sinner is also the cheapest one as well. Next in 6th place we have the 9-Wolf Crusader GT with a 47.7. This car is pretty good, it has quite a few upgrades, and unfortunately it is not that useful, it is not eligible for any of the main championships like the JTC or Group 5. After that, in 5th place, we have the Raven Snake 4 JTC, which is another slow JTC car with 47.5. This is the second slowest JTC car. So yeah, I don't recommend it, just as the Snake 3. The Snake 3 and the Snake 4 are the slowest. Next in 4th place we have the Soup Salamander, which gets a 47.3, and this was a pretty good surprise because it doesn't have that many horsepower, but it's very quick, it's very grippy, it's just a bit stiff, but it's still a pretty good car overall. But same issue as the Crusader GT, unfortunately, it's not very useful. Next, in 3rd place, we have the Cindergaster JTC, which is the best JTC car stock. It gets a 47.3 again, and it is a pretty good car. Unfortunately, it lacks a bit of upgrade. It doesn't have any tire or engine upgrades. If you want to have a good car without spending money or extra money on upgrades, it's a good pick. But ultimately, if you want a very good JTC car, the 2nd place might be the best pick for you, because the Alia April JTC gets a 46.4, and this car is not as quick stock as the Garster JTC, but it has some tire upgrades. It has 3 tires upgrade even, which makes it very grippy. So it's a very good pick for the JTC class, I really recommend it. The April JTC, in fact, used to be the best car in this class by far, but it has been dethroned by, would you guess it, the Milan Bolge BTC in 1st place with a 45.490. This is a absolutely dominant car, and yeah, if you know what times get the other BTC cars, around 50 seconds, you know that this car is literally invincible in the BTC championship. It's a bit sad to see that a car is so dominant, because then you have all the best times that are all driven in the same car, and that's a bit sad. I would prefer it to be a lot more stacked at the top, but there is not much we can do about it. The BTC and the E-Class were pretty close, I would say. I mean, no, not really for the E-Class, but the BTC class was pretty close back then, and the F class as a whole, and they were completely destroyed by the Bourget. Here it was already dominated by the April, and it's just dominated by another car now. And this one is actually cheaper to buy and upgrade than the April, so all good. So that's it for the E-Class. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like and subscribe if that's the case. I will see you next time again. Quickly reminder that the videos are uploaded on Wednesday and Saturday, so be sure to not miss that if you're interested in the results of the testing. Next time in D-Class we're gonna see some very interesting cars. The next video are gonna be shorter though. It's already getting shorter with this one, but the next one are gonna be even shorter because there is less and less cars in every class. So if you think these videos are too long, don't worry, they are gonna get shorter. But anyway, don't forget that the spreadsheet is in the comments if you want to learn about all the details about the testing. And there is also the introduction video if you missed it, but yeah, that's the introduction video is necessary if you want to know the context of all the testing, or if you have any question, the introduction video might reply to it. But anyway, on that note, thank you for watching, take care and see you next time.